Okay, hello students, it's a good day. That's a greeting that you use in Blackfeet, like Nisto ano otakshkitope. I'm Colton otakshkitope ki antaksistiko takositsmatpoa jaksopoachtisispoa. Today I'm going to teach you how to ask questions in Blackfeet. Okay. I'll share my screen and present. Today's Blackfeet language with In today's lesson, which is lesson 6, we're going to learn about questions, and we'll look at some common questions, how to ask questions, but mostly today we're going to look at question words, the most common question words. So question words and examples. So the first question word that you should know is what or how, which is ta, ta, ta. That means what or how. For example, when ta means how, like how is it? Tani da, tani da, tani da. That's literally asking how is it, but it means what's up or like how are you? Tani da, and that's what we use when we ask how someone's going. Tani da. It's kind of like asking how are things going. Another example of when you can use ta is in the word or in the question, sorry. Tanistapanisin. 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 Which means what does it mean? Tanistapanisin. And this is a question that a lot of people ask. Tanistapanisin. What does it mean? But generally you could use it when you're talking about a Blackfeet word that you don't know. You know, if somebody says a word that you're not familiar with, you could say Tanistapanisin. What does that mean? Tanistapanisin. The next question word that we'll look at is who, which is taka, 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 who, taka. An example is in the question takagisto, 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 which means who are you? Takagisto. Another example is taka anistotsim, taka anistotsim, taka anistotsim, which means who did it. And I should note that with taka gistu, it's only 2 words because it's literally us saying who, and then gistu means you or like yourself. So it's saying who are you? We really don't have a word for are in Blackfeet. It's just who you. Taka gistu. There's not really an auxiliary verb that connects the who to you. But with this one, it's kind of more literal. You can match each word to something. Taka is who. Anistotse is kind of like saying did or do. And then this M is kind of saying like it. It's really just a conjugation for the third person. So taka anistotse. And then next question word is where, which is tsema. 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 Where? Tsema. And sometimes people will pronounce it tsama. 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 Kind of like a kind of like they have the word tsa in there. And instead of saying tsema, they'll say tsama. But I will say that it's not really that common. Most people say tsema when they're asking where. An example is tsema kitata pop. Tsema kitata pop. Tsema kitata pop. Which means where are you going? Tsema kitata pop. Another example is just the word itself, tsema, and can mean where to. And a lot of the times, if you're getting a ride to someone or giving a ride to somebody, you could ask tsema, and it's kind of like asking, where are we going? You could kind of look at it as a shortened way of tsema at the po, which means where are we going? But yeah, this is a common question when you're giving a ride to somebody or getting a ride. They'll ask tsema, kind of like where to, tsema. The next common question word is when, which is tanistisi, 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 when, tanistisi. Some examples is tanistisi kita matapo. Tanistisi kita matapo. Tanistisi kita matapo. Which means when will you leave, or it literally means when will you start going. Tanistisi kita matapo. When you're gonna head out. Next up, you could say tanistisi akan stop. Tanistisi akan stop. Tanistisi akan stop. Which means when will it be? So when will something happen? When will something occur, essentially? Tanistisi akan stop. And this could refer to a feed or a celebration, a party, or anything like that. Tanistisi akan stop. The next question word is the word for why, which is mo. 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 Why? Mo. An example is mo ka saint ni. Mo ka saint ni. Mo ka saint ni. Which is like saying, why is she crying? Mo ka saint ni. And you see with this question word, it is different from the other question words. As you could see, when you're using these ones, it's generally separated from the other ones. Tanistisi, and then is separate. Just like tsema is separate, ta is separate. But now we start at this level of Blackfeet, we start to see words kind of coming together, forming new words. And although you could put a space between mok and al saint, doesn't really matter. It's just that it would be pronounced weird if you put a space between it, because you're not saying mok al saint. It's all one word, mok al saint. But really, you could look at it as two separate words, or even three separate words. For instance, mok is why, as we just learned, and then al saint ni technically means like is crying. Mok al saint ni. And so this al in the middle is kind of saying it's the present tense. So if you wanted, you could break this into three separate words, but you're not pronouncing it mok al saint ni. That's not how Blackfeet is pronounced. You don't say like three separate words. It all just kind of forms to one word. You can look at it as like you're putting building blocks upon each other when you're talking. Mokal saint. Another example of when you can use smoke is mokada. Mokada. Mokada, which is like saying, why is she here? She or he. In Blackfeet, there isn't the gendered pronouns. There is no she or he. It's just kind of a separate person that's not you or me. It's the third person. And that third person is gender neutral. The only time that I guess you could argue that there's gendered pronouns is when you're using gendered nouns. Like if you could ask, why is that woman here? Then you could argue that it's gendered, but other than that, not really. And I should point out that this isn't necessarily saying why is she here. It's just kind of like saying, why is she? And here is just kind of like implied because itapi means to be at some place. So if you wanted to say like here specifically, you could say amo mokitapi or mokitapi amo. But you could also just say mokitapi. And it's kind of like saying, why is she here, essentially? The next question is katte. 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 Which means does it or is it? Katte. Or does he or does she? Is it? Is he? Is she? Anything along those lines. For instance, katte nan. Katte nan. Katte nan. Which means does he or she have money? And this is another question word that kind of becomes a suffix rather than a separate word. That's the word. Just like the word for why, mok. It's more so of a suffix than it is a separate word. Gut is a separate word as well. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the reason gut is in parentheses is because sometimes you could cut off the gut and just say day. So even though this is katte nani, does she have money? You could just cut off this ga and say day nani, day nani, day nani, which means does she have money? Another example is with the itapi that we used before with mok itapi. You could say day dapi, day dapi, day dapi. And another thing that is important to note is that some speakers add kind of a watsix at the end. So they could say it as day dapi watsix, day dapi watsix, or even katte nani watsix. And all that watsix is I guess linguistically you could call it non-factive, which means that it's not a fact, which kind of just factors it into being a question. But the reason that I didn't really include any examples of that in this in these slides is because not that many speakers use it, and it's only some dialects, and even then it's not the most common to use that watsix, but it's common enough that you will occasionally hear it. You know, kateni watsix or dapi watsix. But it also is uncommon enough that some people won't really understand it if you were to say it. You know, they'd understand date dapi, but they wouldn't really understand date dapi watsix. But anyway, because it's kind of considered one of those silent sounds in Blackfeet that we've kind of seen, just like date dapi or give. It's a silent sound that can just get dropped off sometimes, if that makes sense. And it is important also, before I go on, this could also say katte dapi, just like this could be de nani, this could be katte dapi. And the thing about katte, the word katte, it literally means does or is not. For instance, with the word katte boye, katte boye, katte boye, it means does not talk. And that's referring to somebody who is deaf or mute, you know, literally does not talk. Katte boye. And so that's an example of when katte can mean doesn't. But in question, it's kind of like saying, doesn't he have money? Or isn't he here? And so that's kind of what that gut means. It's almost like I'm not sure of the term, but yeah, it's not necessarily asking, does he have money? It's saying, doesn't he have money? Kind of like you're under the impression that he does. And a pronunciation tip in Blackfeet is sometimes the sound ga, ga, ga is pronounced gi, gi, gi. And I'm not really sure why that is. It's just kind of one of those things that it's a kind of a phenomenon, I guess you could say, is that ga is sometimes pronounced gi. An example of that is the society Kanatsumi takes. Kanatsumi takes. Kanatsumi takes, which is the all crazy dogs, which is the word for the crazy dog society. Kanatsumi takes. But sometimes, a lot of the times actually, people pronounce it as Ginatsumi takes, or even Ginatsumi takes. Ginatsumi takes. So, you start out with Kanatsumi takes, and then it just kind of transforms to Ginatsumi takes. And I'm not really sure why that is. It just is. Stamanistapi. It's just the way it is. And the same thing goes with questions. You have the word kate nani. Kate nani, which means, doesn't he have money? Kate nani. And it can be pronounced gite nani. Gite nani. Gite nani. And this could be confusing because, as we learned in other past lessons, for instance, with the conjugation, that git can is referring to the second person. The suffix git can refer to the second person. So at times it can be confusing because this gut becomes git. But don't really look at the beginning, look at the end as well, because you don't really have that silent wa when you're talking about the second person, only in some cases. So ite na niya is how you could say, does she have money, if you're using this pronunciation. Kite na niya. Because if you say kite nani, that can be misinterpreted as to be saying you have money. Kite nani versus kite nani. Kite nani. So you kind of want to add a kind of sounds like a yo sound. Kite nani, to ask if he or she has money. But that's the end of the lesson. Again. So, I'll see you all later.